Today we're going to be making a zippered pouch with a little wristlet, perfect on its own or for storing in your backpack. Let's get started. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are going to be making a wristlet. So to start off, you're going to want two types of cotton material. You could definitely just use one. I'm just going to have it have a different color lining on the inside. You are then going to want a 9-inch zipper. We are going to be cutting this down, so if you want to make this slightly smaller, you could probably get away with like a 7-inch zipper. I find it a little easier to use a slightly bigger zipper and trim it to size. And then you are going to want a key ring. I got this pack of them off Amazon and I've been using them a lot. I think a small to medium size will work well to attach the handle to this little pouch. But let's get started. So once you have all your materials, I am going to be specifically making this in mind for feminine projects, so I would be able to take them easily with me. So I grabbed what I would be using, and I'm going to be using this as a guide. So as I can see here, it's around 5-7 inches is how big I'm going to be making my pouch be for the width. You want to make sure that you are adding about 1 inch or so seam allowance on either side. So depending on what type of product you're using, make sure that you are giving your pouch that extra fabric so that you can take the seam. Then you are going to be doing the exact same thing for the height of your pouch. So depending on what you want to be putting in it, make sure you're adding about 1 inch or so on either side for the top and bottom so that it will be able to hold everything that you need and you'll be able to add your zipper on. So now I'm going to be cutting out the lining the exact same way as I did. So I have those 2 pieces for the front and back, and now I'm cutting out 2 pieces for the lining. So all in total, I now have 4 pieces of fabric cut out, ready to go. So what we are going to start focusing on now is cutting out the wristlet, as well as that little portion of fabric we'll need to connect the wristlet to the pouch itself. So as you can see here, I've cut out, it's probably about a 12-inch long piece of material. I just have it folded over right there by 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to be cutting out a second piece, and this is what's going to be using to attach to our bag. So this is going to be about 4 inches by 1.5 inches, 2 inches or so. If you want to make this slightly easier for you to work with, I would say to make it a little wider. If you are okay working with very narrow pieces of material and turning them right side out, then you could go along with that narrower piece. So you can see here, this is what I'm talking about, that we're going to have this piece of material that'll be going through the loop on one side and then that other piece on the other side. So now it's time to attach our zipper to our pouch. So to add the zipper to our pouch, you're going to take one of the pieces of your outside material, and we are going to be placing it with right side down on the zipper, matching it up with that long edge of the zipper. So as you can see here, I have the 2 edges of the zipper and my fabric are now matched up, and I'm just going to pin directly across there. Now, if you are familiar with the Rosary Pouch pattern that I did, as well as video, this is following a very similar process, just the size of the pouch is going to be a little different, as well as we are adding that handle on. So if you already have that pattern, you could definitely just adjust this to meet your needs. Now I have done this for both sides of the outer portion of the fabric, and I'm just going to take a seam for both of those zippers. Now before I go with my sewing machine, I am going to pin up that little portion that is going to be holding our handle on, as well as pinning up where the wristlet handle portion is going to be going, just so that when I get to my sewing machine, I can take a seam for all of this at once instead of having to come back and forth and doing it all in different stages. So now at my sewing machine here, you can see I'm taking a pretty narrow seam, probably about 1/4 inch or so, and I'm just doing this all the way down for both the wristlet portion, that little portion that is going to be attached to our bag. And now I'm switching to working on the zipper. So as you saw there, I just showed you that I am using a zipper foot so that it's easier to sew my zipper onto the bag itself. So far it's looking really good on that one side, and now I'm just going to repeat all of this for the second side of my zipper. So just being very careful and sewing that zipper onto the pouch so that that is a nice straight and neat line. You can see here a little zoomed in effect of just how I'm going through sewing the zipper on. So this is what it currently looks like. I love the color of the zipper with this fabric. Now for those 2 pieces that I had sewn earlier, I am going to be using my safety pin trick to turn these right side out. So all I do for this is I put my safety pin through the fabric, and then I'm going to turn the safety pin and push this all the way through this little keychain portion so that I can turn it right side out. And I'm going to repeat those exact same steps for that other piece we sewed as well. So this is currently what my bag looks like. Now it is time to add our lining material. So again, this is very similar to how I did the Rosary Pouch, where I am essentially making a fabric sandwich and having that zipper portion be in the middle. So I'm going to line up the wrong side of the zipper with the right side of my fabric, and pin that along that long edge, and I'm going to repeat this for both sides, and then I will just take another seam. If you were definitely someone who is a little more advanced, you could probably have done this all in one step. I just like doing one piece of fabric at a time to make sure it looks nice and neat, but here's that sandwich effect. You can see the zipper is in the middle. And now I'm just going to repeat all of this for the second side so that I can have both of those pieces of lining attached to the outside portion of the bag and the zipper. And then I'm just using my zipper foot again to take that seam, doing a nice straight seam all the way down. So here's what it looks like. I think it looks really good. I like the fabric choices and the zipper looks nice and neat with it. So now I'm just going to repeat all of this for the second side and get everything nice and sewn up. So here's currently what our pouch is looking like. We have the lining on the inside, and then we have that exterior fabric as well, and the zipper is now attached to everything. So we are ready to move on to our next step. And what this is going to be is ironing everything out. So we want to make sure that everything is nice and flat and smooth before we start top stitching, before we start adding all these pieces together. So what I'm going to do is, so you can see these little pieces that we are going to be attaching for our wristlet, I'm going to press them out so that they are nice and flat, and then I'm going to do the exact same process for that longer piece that will be our actual wristlet component. I'm just going to press it out, and then for my zipper pouch, I'm going to be pulling the outside fabric as well as that interior lining away from the zipper, so you can see I'm kind of gently providing some tug on the one side, and then I'm just pressing this out so it's nice and flat and ready for top stitching. Now for top stitching, I am going back to my regular sewing machine presser foot, so removing that zipper foot, and now I am just going to start top stitching everything down. So for the little wristlet portion, what I'm going to be doing is just taking a seam very, very close to either edge to give it a really nice mirrored look. So I'm just taking a straight stitch. This is probably close to like 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. This is very tiny, so that I have this nice look on either side, and I'm going to now repeat this for the second side so that it just gives it a little more structure and lets it hold up, especially since this is going to be the wristlet portion of my bag. So this is what that ended up looking like, and it looks really good. Now it is time to top stitch the actual bag itself. So as you can see, I have the fabric for the outside as well as the lining. I have it pressed down, so we just did that earlier, and now I'm just going to take a seam very close to the edge of that outside portion of the material. And I definitely recommend pinning this so that you can hold all of those pieces of material and the zipper in place, and it will just make it so that when you do that straight stitch, it is a lot easier to see what you need to sew. And now I'm just taking a straight stitch all the way down, making sure that I'm being cautious of not sewing over the zipper, but I am getting the lining as well as the exterior fabric, and everything is laying nice and neat. So now that I have this done, you can see our zipper is able to go back and forth. It's essentially time to start sewing up our pouch and adding our little wristlet connector. Now I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to zip it up partly, so I do not have the zipper all the way zipped up, but I have the zipper head into the pouch itself, and I am now going to match up the outside pieces of my material, and I'm going to be pinning these together. So you can see here that they are with right sides together, and I'm going to be pinning them up, as well as pinning up the lining of my material as well. So I'm just going to go through, pin all of this up all the way around. Now when I get to the lining, I am going to be pinning it so that there is a gap at the bottom, so that I am able to turn this right side out. So you can see those 2 pins are going to denote where I'm taking that gap. Now for my wristlet connector, I am going to be folding this in on itself, and then with right sides together, I am going to push this into my bag. So you can see that the edges are right there. I have it poked into the bag itself, and now I'm just going to take a seam all the way around this bag, making sure that I leave that around 3 to 4 inch gap, and just taking a straight seam all the way around. When I get to the corners, I am going to pivot my fabric so that I get those nice and neat corners. So as I went through, I just very carefully sewed everything up, also being cautious when I sewed over the zipper. Be sure you're not sewing into any metal portion on the zipper, like the zipper stop or start, and then also being sure that you are sewing through that little wristlet connector. Now I'm just going to go through and trim off all this extra fabric and clip the corners, and then I will be turning my pouch right side out. So this is kind of the exciting part where our bag is coming together. You can turn your bag now right side out, you can put the lining into the bag itself, and you can zip it up, and we have our pouch complete. So everything looks really good. You can see on the inside that we have that really nice lining. You're not able to see any raw edges. The one thing we do have to worry about though is we had that hole that we had used to turn this all right side out. So we do need to finish that hole as well as add the little keychain that will be used to turn this into a wristlet. So the way that I'm going to finish this hole is I'm just going to take a straight seam. You could definitely use your sewing machine. You could hand sew this depending on how much you want it to be seen or not. But now with that done, you can see that the pouch on the inside is all finished off. So it is now just time to work on our keychain portion of our little bag. So I'm going to now attach the key ring that I had to the bag itself. So for my key ring, I just had to twist it onto the bag portion. This was very simple to do. And then once you had that, it is now time to add our little wristlet. So taking that fabric that we had sewn earlier, and you're just going to pull it through your keychain and then have the ends match up. So you can see here that my edges are now matched up at the end. And we are going to be taking a seam very close to the key ring. You do not want to sew over that metal portion of the key ring, but just so that it does attach onto your key ring. So I probably took about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch seam allowance here, just did a straight stitch all the way across so that it was nice and attached. Then I trimmed up my threads and it was ready to essentially be almost done with this pouch. So we had to worry about the other ends of our key ring, as right now they are just those raw edges. So to finish this off, I folded the edges in on themselves, and then I'm just going to take a seam for both of these edges to attach them to each other while having those raw edges inside, so that it gives it a really nice and clean look. I found this not to be too hard. If you're using thicker cotton, you may need to do one at a time and then sew them together at the end, but I was able to get through all 4 layers of that material, and this gave me a really nice look at the end and the perfect little wristlet accessory, if you will, for what I was looking for this pouch. So now it was just time to trim up those threads as well, and at this point my pouch is now complete. So I absolutely love how it turned out. I think it looks really good and exactly the purpose that I wanted it to be for. You now have this perfect little zipper pouch to hold whatever products you would like it to hold. If you're doing also for feminine products, I think this works really nicely and gives you a really fun accessory to take along with you. But you could definitely put whatever you would like in it. Remember, this is very similar to my Rosary Pouch, so if you would like that, check out my Etsy store. Thanks so much for watching.